G'day guys and welcome. My name's Michael and I am the DeadAussieGamer, here to share with you my tips, tricks, ideas and strategies for playing and running tabletop role-playing games. Now today's video we are going to be focusing on a story spotlight, where I'm going to be sharing some of the tales of adventure from my own tables. Whether it's me as a GM or me as a player, we're going to be sharing some of the stuff that has happened to me in a hopefully entertaining and fun kind of way. Today's topic, we are going to be looking at death. Now, of course, despite all of my experiences and stuff like that, I would not be where I am today if I had not seen my fair share of player character deaths. I've seen good, I've seen bad, I've seen a character who has died in the first round, first action of combat. I've seen it all. And I'm going to share a couple of these stories with you today. So, the first story I'm going to share with you guys, very intimately by the way, is the story of my first death. That's right, the first character I ever played and how they died. There is a kind of a lesson to be told about this particular story because it was at a time where I really didn't understand too much about role-playing. I was kind of feeling the vibe, getting to know a bit more about the systems, how they worked, how I should be with my fellow players. And I, was really leaning on my GM at the time to help guide me through the process of playing role-playing games. The character I was playing was a dark elf by the name of Moramath, a shadow type of ninja-esque character. He was an assassin for hire who pretty much I'd built him so that as long as he was not in light, he could not be found unless a god wanted to find him. You couldn't tremor sense him, you couldn't blind sense him, you couldn't use dark vision to see him. Nothing could find him at all. And that was my big key because, I wanted to play a stealth character. I wanted to play a rogue and an assassin. It was great because assassins had to watch people for like 3 whole turns before they actually got to kill anyone. It was weird, but that's how they were. So I was traveling with my group of evil villains. So we had like this big hulking anti-paladin who was our leader. We had this sorcerer who was this evil kind of burninating everything kind of sorcerer. And we also had like this sort of a telepath sort of dude who sort of probed people's minds using psychic energy. And of course myself as the assassin. So this was our little motley crew, and we were journeying through, I believe, the City of the Spider Queen adventure, which was a Forgotten Realms adventure. A really good trilogy, actually, if you ever get the chance to play that game. Now, Moramath was a very, I suppose, edgelord character. I mean, look, so sue me, I made an edgelord. So he didn't really get along with too many people, didn't really socialize, and was pretty much the one who was like, I do all the damage, so you guys can suck it when it comes to dealing with me. Which wasn't great. So we got to a scenario where we found this large creature, this giant, lurking in one of the caves, blocking our way through. Naturally, Moramath, being the stealthy, skilled, guiley kind of character that he was, used his stealth check to try and approach this creature. Now, I'd rolled something in the vicinity of like 30 or something really, really high. And sure enough, my character got pretty close to this individual without being detected. Now, I never spoke to my group at this period of time. I never told them what I intended or what I wanted to do, never informed them of the plan or anything. And one of our players, the spellcaster in fact, had in their head the novel that Forgotten Realms had made. And in that novel, they encountered these creatures, which were called Nightwalkers, and they were susceptible to daylight and sunlight. So shining daylight would just disintegrate them and make them disappear. Now, first of all, kudos to that player for reading the novels. I think that's a very talented skill, not one I have. I'm not a reader. I'm a comic book guy. So he pulls out his sun rod and he illuminates the entire area in this cascade of sunlight, which bathes everyone and everything in the area, including myself. Fun fact: Nightwalkers don't give 2 damns about sunlight. However, as I may have mentioned before, so long as I am not in direct sunlight, I cannot be detected. However, in direct sunlight, my character lost everything. Pretty much every power I had except for the ability to stab people, because I was a shadow dancer, because I was a shadow elf, because I had shadow weapons and shadow armor, blah, 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 blah. I was standing right in front of this very large, very angry, very hasted individual, and it looked at me and just went like it was hitting a whack-a-mole, and I died. That was my first death. And at the time, I did not handle it well. I honestly could not believe what this player had done. He had single-handedly killed me. It wasn't like it was our first game together. He knew that all my powers would get switched off, and I resented him at the time. As I kind of grew older and started playing more, I suppose my opinion of that death changed. I think death is very important for us to be able to do. You know, if we get caught up in this mindset that dying somehow or another ruins our character or stops our character from being who they are, I think it does us a disservice. I think the road to your character being the best character that they can be has to end in some kind of noteworthy death. The fact that my character was so ingrained with shadow stuff that his death came at the hands of a daylight spell, a simple but fatal accident made by a teammate, suddenly reflects upon the team. The death of my character, my new character's introduction to this group, everything that sort of came about from it stemmed from this lack of communication. So my new character was someone who talked. Someone who got to know my group and got to know what their powers and abilities were, who made sure that everyone knew what he was doing so as not to get in anyone's way or to step on anyone's toes. So death is not something to be afraid of. My first death, like I said, at the time, mad. I was completely livid at the fact that I had died in this way. But, it was definitely not something I would trade for anything, to be honest. So that's my first death. So that hands down it. Worst death. Now we'll talk about the worst death. Now when I say worst death, what I mean to say is, while death is important and it is a massive consequence of the game, without death we don't really get a sense of reward because our characters bear no risk if they don't at least risk death when they perform their acts of heroism and feats of danger and adventure. So for me, death is always a tool. It's something that's used to motivate my players, to keep them pushing forward and pressing into the adventure as we play. This death was not great. So over the course of about maybe, I want to say 6 months, I was playing a horror game, and in this horror game I had a purple worm. It was a purple worm with a template called consuming, where every creature that this purple worm would eat, it would adopt certain properties of that creature. So it ate a bulette and it gained a faster burrow speed and a bigger bite. It ate a gargoyle, so it could actually remain perfectly still and appear as an outcrop of like hills and stones. So on and so forth was this creature that it eventually became a kind of like a persistent nemesis for the group, as it was constantly chasing them. There was a very specific soundtrack. I think it was Shockwave from the Transformers Michael Bay movie. That soundtrack, as it sort of encroached, got my players panicked every single time, and they would run and run and run and run and run to try and flee. Now, at some point or another, I randomly rolled and it arrived in the center of this large field. At this stage, my players understood that this creature was way faster than they were, and it was, in fact, gonna catch one of them. So one of the players turned and asked one of the other players to stay behind and try to buy the rest some time. And what I ended up doing was I ended up having the creature sink to the ground, come up right underneath that player, and just one bite, it swallowed, she's gone. And the players that survived kind of resented that, and the player who got eaten, she was kind of okay, but from then on she kind of just became very pessimistic. She thought everything was terrible, everything bad was gonna happen to her, and it kind of devolved from there. I chalk this to one of my worst deaths because it didn't serve any purpose. It was a random encounter, and it was just a simple matter of, well, because they'd never killed it, because they never really attacked it, and because they weren't working as a unit, it grew to a point where it couldn't sustain them as a nemesis. It was just a matter of time before it was going to kill them. As a GM, I should have really seen that ahead and not used such a vicious creature. I should have instead focused on just creating that sensation, to knock the player over instead of devouring her, to, even if I did devour her, to maybe give the other players a chance to attack the creature and have it vomit out their friend. Anything I could have done to make that encounter more enjoyable, more fun, but instead all I got was this couple of minutes of eaten, gone, vanished, dead. Till this day, I do regret that death, and if I were to go back and replay it, I definitely would have done many things differently. But, again, we all learn from the things that we do right and the things that we do wrong. Alright, the last story for today's spotlight is a good story. This is a great story. This was single-handedly the best death that I have ever experienced as a GM. And I want to give full props because this story actually comes from my youth center work. So it was actually one of my young attendees who go to my program who actually did the most amazing narrative thing. So, our group of adventurers were part of a rebellion, and this rebellion was rising up against this evil witch queen who had in her thrall a giant white dragon, fearsome eyes, huge maw, razor-sharp teeth. This creature was death on wings, and it was a white dragon, and we were in a snowy setting. So this thing was extra deadly. As part of the rebellion, the PCs needed to break into the tower where the dragon was, basically irritate it, and then try to, sort of delay it while the rebellion happens. The problem was that the dragon knew what was happening and went for the rebels instead. However, the group, realizing their mistake, decided that instead of helping the rebels, they wanted to evacuate all of the loved ones because they thought the rebels were going to die. And sure enough, they did. The rebels are defeated, eaten, devoured, torn apart, frozen in icicles. The white dragon, however, is not done. Seeking revenge, the white dragon follows the scent of the players and the whole group of women and children that they have in their charge. They begin to escape the city through these underground network of tunnels. The dragon follows. They hear it coming from behind them. All along the blackened pits of the tunnel, they smell its thick breath. They feel the chill in the air. They instantly tell everyone to get out, to head straight for the exit, and to not look back. These tunnels, built by the rebels, had fail-safes just in case this might have happened. 4 runestones that guarded these massive pylons that, when destroyed, would collapse the entire tunnel system. However, these had to be destroyed from within. So the group needed to make a decision. Do they follow the survivors and try to leave? Maybe face off with the dragon? Or do they stay here, seal off the tunnel, and ensure the safety of the civilians? Well, everyone pretty much goes, no, yes, we will. We'll sacrifice ourselves and we will stop the dragon here and now. Another person, yes, no, we have to. There are 4 stones. If each of us have 2 people on each stone, there's a very large table, we should get this, no problem. One player turns around and says, No, I don't want to die. Are you insane? I want to... Oh, for him as a player, he was like, I want to play this character later on. I don't want my character to die because I've been playing it since level 1. So many of these guys came afterwards. So many of these people don't have as much investment as I do. The group turned to this character and said, okay, fine, you go and you make sure that the civilians are safe and we'll stay behind and we'll shut this place off. So he did. One guy runs off and he leaves. The group fights. The dragon emerges from the dark. Big teeth, big wings flapping, kicking up snow and dirt. One of the players charges, rushing forward with his sword, slashing, gashing, stabbing, trying his hardest to keep the dragon at bay, while the others start working on the runestones. The dragon pins him down with one mighty claw and breathes this icy blast into his face, freezing him to the spot. As he does so, the rest manage to break through 2 of the stones, which isn't enough to bring the whole place down. But as the pieces of the roof begin to fall and collapse, the dragon quickly knows what they're doing. He freezes 2 more by one of these stones, preventing them from destroying it. While the other 2 manage to break the 3rd stone, they need to now fight through the dragon in order to get to the last stone. They begin to engage. They move left. They move right. They drag the dragon back. They drag the dragon forward. They move into this huge and solid engagement. They then realize that every hit the dragon takes brings them closer and closer to death. Of the 2 people remaining, one falls, felled by this huge claw. The next one knows that a full attack is coming, and he will not survive. Suddenly, the player with the character that did not want to die, the character who wanted to live more than anything, both as a player and as a character, rushes in. The dragon is too far away to do anything about it, mostly because I, as a GM, didn't think that he was coming back. And he destroys that stone and buries himself and everyone else, protecting the townsfolk and saving them. Now, this for me was just incredible. There's no other word for it. It was absolutely incredible. And honestly, till this day, it is the best character death I have ever seen. And I am very grateful for this young person, this talented young person, to have played that game and to share that with me. Because honestly, it wasn't like that self-sacrifice you do where you've got that player who's really into role play and really very much, like, yes, I will sacrifice myself because it's what my character would do, and I am so noble and I am so wonderful, and I play those characters, those are fun. It was a genuine sacrifice, it was a genuine moment where the player didn't want his character to die, the character didn't want to die. But the player made that choice. The player made that sacrifice. And that, for me, was just this moment of pure... it was a pure moment, There was nowhere else to describe this. It was a golden moment that I will carry with me for the rest of my days. And I was so happy about it. So yeah, these are my stories. These are the tales of my first death, my worst death, and of course, the finest one that I've ever seen. I hope you guys enjoyed these stories. Tell me, what are the most important deaths you have experienced in your gaming career? Your first death, the worst one you've ever had or witnessed, or even the best one. Share it with us in the comments below. Let us know, and hopefully we'll hear from you guys, and we'll be able to chat about what exactly happened. If you guys like this video, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let us know so that we can make more of them. I haven't really done too many story spotlights before, so if you want more, then yeah, do let me know, because I don't know if you want them or not. You tell me, people. So yeah, if you want to go check us out on all of our other stuff, all the links are below in the description, so go check us out there. Go hang out with us on Twitch at twitch.tv/DeadAussieGamer. Give us a follow and come watch our live games get played. And of course, if you want to support the Dead Aussie Gamer, head on over to our Patreon at patreon.com/DeadAussieGamer. And, look, as little as $2 a month can make us go a long, long way. Thank you very much, guys. Until next time, as always, game hard or die trying. And die well. Yes, die well. Story. Bye, guys.